Welcome to another episode of John's Gauge and HO Trains. I wanted to add another car to my military train, but I wanted something a little bit different that I couldn't buy off the shelf. So I started out with this Menards Army flat car with Army van. It's 279-3449, and it does have a van on it, military van, which is too modern to suit my railroad. So I'm going to get rid of that. Just put that aside. The flat car is United States Army, but it came with a deck that was just cast in the olive drab green plastic. So first of all, I repainted that and just kind of weathered it and to look a little bit more like a weathered wood decking. Next, what I wanted to do is, while I was looking for something that was a more prototypical era, maybe Korean War or World War II tank, I found this Atlantis reissue of an old vintage model kit. It's actually three kits together. It's a boat, a Sherman tank, which I'll eventually build later, which is 1/48 scale, so it's perfect for HO, and also a Piasecki H-25 Army mule helicopter in 1/48 scale. So I thought, price is not bad, I'll buy it all three, and if the helicopter doesn't work out, at least I've got the tank. And so what I've done is I started to assemble the helicopter, and I made a couple little changes. It didn't have any windows on the side, so I added some clear styrene plastic, and that's taped off now for painting. And what I did is, with the two twin rotors, I cut off two of the blades on each rotor, and I glued them in a prototypical folded configuration, and added some very non-prototypical little styrene struts here, painted silver, just to kind of reinforce the position of the blades there. I did check it, and with the landing gear installed, it was just a little bit too wide for the flat car, and the wheels would go out just over the edge here. So what I'm doing is, I cut the landing gear off, cut the stub axles a little bit shorter, and so now it just fits on the decking. And I've got some Krylon satin Italian olive paint, which looks like olive drab, and it's got the benefit of being, per ounce at least, about 1/4 the cost of a Tester's olive drab. After blocking off the cab area with a piece of wadded up aluminum foil, I painted the helicopter with the Krylon satin Italian olive paint, and the color does pretty closely match the cap. I think maybe a little bit lighter. So I've been applying the decals. So decals came out pretty good. Just have to let it dry, and then I'll apply a clear coat over it. Finished applying decals and install the landing gear. I did modify the stub axles on the landing gear so that it just barely fits on the flat car. And I'm going to apply Tamiya flat clear coat to this. I'll apply that to the rotor assembly separately. I've got the canopy off because I'll just block off the cockpit there. I don't want the clear coat to go on the canopy. So I sprayed the helicopter with Tamiya flat clear, and then removed the masking that I had over these windows that I added. The windows on the side were not included as part of this Atlantis reissue kit, and installed the canopy over the front, and you can see where I masked off and painted the structural members there on the canopy, and glued in the rotor assemblies, which I painted with Tamiya flat clear separately from the helicopter. I have made chocks for the flat car, just balsa, glued together and painted. And instead of just making a simple chock in front of and in back of the wheel, what I realized is because the wheels sit right on the edge of the flat car, I thought, you know, if I were making a chock for this, I would make something to prevent it from going sideways. So that's what I did. This has got, I don't know if you can see it here, but it's got a structural member which would keep the helicopter in place once these chocks are secured down. It's kind of like an assembly. And I did the same thing for the rear wheel assembly. So it's pretty much dried. So all I have to do is I'm just going to figure out where this is going to get placed. So it's mounted in the chocks and just waiting for the glue to dry. I glued the helicopter down to the chocks here, and the glue dried. And one thing I forgot to mention was that I tend to lose some part when I'm assembling something. In this case, the part that got lost was the very small tail wheel here, just a small round bit of plastic. Lost it, put it back in again, thought it was secure, fell out again, got hopelessly lost. So at first I was going to let it kind of be hidden by the chock back here. Didn't feel comfortable with that, had to find something else. What I did find, after considering a piece of wood dowel that I was going to paint and kind of sand off around it, is I found these caps to a Bic pen. I had actually 2 caps that were black plastic, and I had them saved for the eventuality where I thought, hey, they might come in handy, and they did. I had 2 black caps, and it looks strangely kind of like maybe a wheel with a hub, and I cut off maybe just 1/16 of inch from each cap, glued them together, and again they were already black plastic, but I painted them with acrylic flat black, glued them together, and there they are in there. And frankly, it's a little bit bigger than the original wheel, and I think it looks a little bit better. It's a little bit more prominent. It's not hidden by the chocks there. One thing I added on to the chocks was I used some very small nails I had. You can barely see them there maybe in the back of the chock back there. And just very small nails, just to kind of make it look like it's bolted down maybe, hard to see. And as far as securing this, I had considered a couple options. I considered using round elastic cord that I got from a craft store, and that would be good. You'll see that on some freight cars as a means of securing a load like an automobile. And then I considered these mini zip ties that I got from Hobby Lobby. They were kind of shiny black plastic. I painted them flat black, thinking that maybe the rough side, the zip tie side of it would look maybe kind of like it's a big canvas strap holding down the helicopter. But then eventually I thought, no, I'm going to use some chain. I'm going to try to find some. Could look online and find it maybe from an online hobby shop, maybe even a local hobby shop. But I found this at a Hobby Lobby in the jewelry making section, and it was marked $249, and actually it was on sale 50% off. It only cost me $1.24. Oddly enough, I looked at really all of the chain they had. I wanted black chain if it was available. This was the only one that was really small and was black, and oddly enough, it was also the cheapest. So it just happened to work out. I don't know if it's scale, but in my opinion, it came out looking pretty good. And the other options were good. They would work too, but I'm happy I went with this option. So there is one more thing I want to try with this before I think it will be done. I found a photo with this model of helicopter parked for storage with the blades tethered like this, even with orange tethers. I happen to have some ribbon that was orange fabric, and so I cut it down in width And there we go, the finished model. So now all I have to do is put it in a train and run it around. Thanks for watching another episode of John's O-Gauge and HO Trains. We'll see you next time.